Okay, so this is where I'm at with this book. I've finished it, and disappointed is too harsh of a word because it was a good book with a good premise. But what I'm disappointed about is that I feel like I've spent 477 pages trying to get back to the first chapter. And when I finally did get back to the first chapter, it wasn't as exciting as I expected it to be. I think that's where my disappointment lies. So the first chapter, I mean, I can tell you because it's the first chapter of the book. The first chapter, our main character seems to be involved in some sort of spy situation, and she kills someone, assassinates someone very important, and herself dies, right? So this first chapter is intriguing and enough for me that it kept me going. So then from that first chapter, it goes back to the birth of Ursula. And for the rest of the book, we are given different scenarios of Ursula's life. Every time Ursula dies, she comes back and she makes different decisions which change the course of the previous stories, the previous scenarios of her life. She has some ability to understand that, and she has some she has some way of being able to do that in her world, right? Reincarnation, maybe? They hint at that. There's some crazy psychologist guy that we don't really even delve into that has sessions with Ursula. That's kind of a character that was just thrown in there as a way of introducing these light bulb moments for us as the reader, not really for Ursula. There's no explanation as to how this works. She was just born a different way is kind of the reference. So I've spent, 450 pages going through all these different scenarios. The one that was the most fleshed out was when Ursula was a volunteer during the London bombings in World War II. That kind of set me in a bad mood because I'm done with World War II novels. I really am. I've read so many stories about women in the London bombings and helping out in World War II and waiting for people to come home from, fighting in the war. So that kind of put me in a salty mood, I think. It's just not my gig anymore. So I'm going through all these different scenarios. People are just, it's fast paced, yeah? Everything's thrown at you. Mum dies quickly, it's fast paced. But when I finally get to the chapter that's about bringing me back to that clangor in the first chapter where it's disappointing. There's new characters introduced that really have nothing to do with the end result. It doesn't make any sense. It jumps ahead in time so far. To me, it was really disappointing that what I was waiting for so long ended up just being kind of an afterthought to the World War II story. And the person she assassinates, I mean, really, it's pretty obvious. And I picked that up. So all in all, a bit of a shame. I'm going to run with maybe 3.5, 4 stars. Sure, the Book Maniac's not going to like that, but sorry. It's just a disappointment. So I guess this is what we do as book readers, huh? We just move on quickly. It's so interesting to me how I get invested in books and they take up so much of my life. That was, 4 days of intensity and being involved in that world. And then I just kind of cut it and go, righto, it's done, 3.5 stars. Let's move on. Some books, obviously, I can't do that with. But that one I can. So this is my little pile of what's left for September. and this is what I'll move on to next. So this is Notes from an Exhibition by Patrick Gale. This is my next read simply because it needs to go back to the library. So, in a nice, annoying turn of events, I walked into the library with Notes from an Exhibition and everything beeped at me. And it was overdue, and when I tried to renew it, someone had reserved it. So I had to turn it back in. And I was, 50 pages in, and it was intriguing. It was really cool. So in my flurry, I got another book. This was on my Goodreads TBR, The Sense of an Ending by Julian Barnes. So I'm at tennis now, so I'll just start that and see how we go. Is this a normal person thing to do? I'm hiding in my car because if I go outside, people will want to talk to me and I just want to read my book. Have I hit new levels of book nerd craziness, or where are we at? Let me know. Righto, so I've just had a shower, the kids are in bed, I'm just about to climb into bed, and I thought I'd just wrap up this day of reading. This is the first month that I've ever set myself a target for how many books I want to read in the month. And I did that because I want to get more focused on my reading. I want to get more involved. And I have so many books that I hear about all the time from BookTube and from other places that are on my TBR, and I realised I'm just never going to get to them all if I'm just sort of dilly-dallying and only doing a couple of books, a month. So this month I want to read 10 books. This isn't because of the channel or anything like that. I just want to make that clear. The channel came after that decision to focus on reading. It was a way to, for me to be able to talk about the books rather than just reading 10 silently and having no sort of expression about what the books were about. And I really wanted to start having conversations. I can't do that in my real life. That just doesn't happen because there's nobody around me that is in the same space as I am in my reading. So basically I'm just using all of these tools to try and keep me on that reading focus. And it's exciting, it's interesting. It's, I really love speaking to this camera and starting that interaction focus. Anyway. So where we got to today was I finished Life After Life with Kate Atkinson. Not meh, that's unfair, but a level of disappointment there. I started Notes from an Exhibition, which got taken off me by some cranky librarian. And then I quickly found this book because I needed a book to read at tennis, and started it. So I'm only, 20 pages in or something like that, not very much. I've already had to look up a few words. It's going to be one of those books. I was a bit annoyed at the library because I thought, I've wasted some time reading, and I have goals that I want to reach every day with my reading. I know that sounds kind of dramatic, but that's how I'm sort of approaching this, just to see how that works. But luckily the book that I picked up, and this is by sheer coincidence, is only 140 something pages long. So maybe I can knock this over tonight before I go to sleep. I say that every night, but then I fall asleep, so this is Notes from an Exhibition is off the TBR, and this is added on. And this is one I wanted to read anyway, so I'm lucky I found it in our little library. So now I'm just going to take some time out, grab a cup of tea, do some reading, and go to sleep. There's my husband.